the introduction. My name is Krishna Manda. I'm co-leading global sustainability at Lenzing Group. Today, I'm going to take you through what is Lenzing climate strategy, what is our roadmap, how we are actually implementing the change within the company and embedding in it, but also how would it translate into the fibers that you are buying so that you see the solutions that we are providing to the world and the market. I am planning for around 20-25 minutes presentation and 5 minutes of Q&A, but you can also contact me later if you have any specific remarks, or my colleagues as well. So I would really welcome your inputs, which is actually going to help us improve things as well. So without any further ado, I would like to talk first about who Lenzing is and also what is our sustainability strategy, and then I focus mostly on today the Lenzing's climate change strategy, the roadmap, and how do we embed change, and as I said, what type of solutions we are providing. And I also wanted to introduce a new fiber we have launched a few months ago called Carbon Zero Tensile Fibers. Some of you might not know, Lenzing is a fiber producer, so we are actually in the tier 4 of the textile value chain. We take inputs from the forest, the sustainable and responsibly managed forests, and then we turn into a fiber. And those fibers are actually our products, which go into the industries like textiles, nonwovens, and other technical applications as well. So they have a versatility of properties and can cater to many different demanding applications as well, and which are sold with 3 brands for 3 different sectors. Today, it's more important about Tencel as a brand that we are talking about. And also the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that Lenzing is a global company with around more than 7,000 team members around the world, with more around $2 billion revenues. In having offices in almost all geographies of the world and production plants in many locations. So I just wanted to dig directly into our sustainability strategy. We have actually made 3 strategic goals as a company to further the sustainability area. They are called advancing circularity and greening the value chain and partnering for systemic change. To advance these focus areas, we have also actually created focus areas for environment and people. And you can see it is very broad because sustainability is a very broad topic, and you need to see as a company, where do you have the maximum impact and also control and influence. So based on those things, we have created this sustainability strategy, and each focus area has dedicated targets to make the improvements in those areas. And you can see a few examples here. And each target is actually connecting to the real world problems, which are kind of sustainable development goals, they are called. So we see how our company is really contributing to the progress of not only industry, but also to the society as such. So you can see that connection. But today I would like to go deeper into our target on climate change, because that is what I wanted to talk about today. And before I talk about any target, I would like to bring to your attention, there is a concept called science-based targets. So the main idea behind is that by 2050, the whole world need to be having no emissions from man-made activities. In order to get there, we need to actually set a course how we should reduce our emissions. If they are today here, maybe we want to get to here. That is actually the absolute level, 0. And how do we get there there is a methodology behind it. And when you wanted to frame a target to fit that methodology, to make the world be in a safe place in 2050, you need to follow this requirements called science-based targets, which are formulated by these 4 NGOs. So once you set a target by following this process and methodology, you also need to submit that target to these organizations, and they will verify if your target fit the ambition of the global carbon reductions. Then only they can call you as science-based target approved company. Yeah, our target is approved by the science-based target initiative, and many NGOs are actually supporting, because this is the only way we can actually tackle the climate change in the world. And we are very proud to be the first fiber company in textile industry to have an approved science-based target. So far, around 50 to 60 companies only have science-based targets, either committed or approval, out of thousands of fashion textile companies in the world. And our target is basically reducing our specific emissions. That means per ton of fiber, we wanted to reduce our emissions by 50% by 2030 and net zero by 2050. So this is a very ambitious target and very difficult to achieve, but we are actually geared toward implementing this target in our company. I would like to take you through that. And when I say this target is that 50% reduction, but there are something called scope 1 and 2 and 3. So our target is for all those scopes. And I would like to briefly tell you what are those scopes actually. So here you can see scope 1, which is coming from our own facilities. For example, if we have a boiler, we have vehicles, and those kind of things contributing to the use of fossil fuels like coal, natural gas, crude oil, and you emit them. When you burn them, you produce CO2 and you emit them. That is scope 1. But we also buy electricity and steam from the market. That is called scope 2. But we buy a lot of raw materials, like if you are a brand or retailer, you are buying finished garments, or finished fabrics, whatever it is you are buying. So they're all upstream value chain emissions. They are called scope 3. In our case, we are buying chemicals to make the fibers. We are buying wood, pulp, and we are also buying services, logistics, and all those things are called scope 3. So if you wanted to see how much is the fraction Lenzing is getting from these different scopes, basically around 50% from our own scope 1 and 2, and 50% from our value chain, upstream value chain actually. And how are we planning to reduce these emissions? There is a very dedicated roadmap for each facility we have in our company, but also we have a global roadmap based on these levers, which I'm going to give you some examples. For reducing CO2, the first and foremost thing we need to do is reduce the use of energy and materials. So if you save that, you will have to, so you don't need to actually prevent them somewhere else. So you need to prevent here so that you can reduce your emissions. And cleaner fuels. For example, you may be using coal, which is a dirty fuel, and you wanted to replace it with natural gas, which is less dirtier than coal. And you can even go towards even sustainably sourced biomass, which would be actually reducing your emissions even further. And that is another lever. And you can also buy electricity from the grid based on renewables like wind, solar, and those kind of plants. So all these things are nowadays are very expensive compared to the regular dirty things, but we as a company are committed to do that. So we are investing in all those, and we are also developing futuristic technologies that will take us through net zero, which is a very big topic. And we are still growing despite these reductions, because we believe we wanted to replace dirty alternatives that are available in the market. So as a responsible company, we would like to grow as carbon neutral. That means we are actually building a plant, a lyocell plant in Thailand now, currently, and we are procuring the complete energy needs from biomass, which is close to carbon neutral. Yeah, so only transport of biomass is the only emissions you have there. So that is very responsible from that point of view, and we are very ambitious in that direction. And on top of doing all these things within our own facilities and own company, but we also need to engage our suppliers. As you saw, 50% of our emissions are actually coming from our suppliers, right? So we do engage with our suppliers and help them develop roadmaps, targets, but also deliver new low carbon products so that we can offer you solutions that are low CO2 emissions. So on top of doing all those things, there will be some unavoidable emissions where you need to use some of these fossil fuels, for example, but we need to make it as little as possible. And those emissions are called unavoidable remaining emissions. And those need to be maybe done with planting, afforestation or reforestation, but it should be done at the end, not at the beginning, because you have to take your own responsibility to reduce whatever you can do within your own means before you go towards your removals like afforestation, like offsets and those kind of things. And there are new technologies that are also developing which will capture CO2 and maybe make new products out of it. So we also need to keep our eyes and ears open to find new technologies that also capture and use the CO2 rather than emitting into the atmosphere. Yeah, this is the way we are actually approaching our carbon reduction roadmap. But having these plans is one thing, but bringing it to a reality is another big thing. So how do we bring those dreams into life? So I think we need to also recognize the fact that it may be easy to plan, but harder is to implement it in a scaled and systemized way in an organization like Lenzing scale of like a $2 billion revenue and more than 7,000 people and more than 10 facilities. So it's really, really huge task. And in an environment where you are expected to deliver quarterly results, right? Quarterly financial results and everything. And you need to do all those balance in a balanced way and still make progress for climate change. That's where I want to talk about orchestrating for change, where we are doing ourselves many things in the last 2 years after our target has been approved. And I wanted to give you just some examples how we are doing it. Before setting the target, we have actually engaged our top 3-4 layers of leadership to make them understand why we need to have a target, how we can actually approach to reduce these emissions and targets in the long term, and what do we expect from these leaders and what needs to be changed. This is something we have had a conversation with around 40 people, one-on-one conversation for 3 months to bring everybody on board, create the system, company-wide alignment, create the shared vision, shared understanding, where we wanted to go, why we wanted to go, and everything. We have done that. And we also learned what are their real challenges. What do we need to create in the company as a system so that they can actually progress their goals and targets to contribute here. And we also talk to our suppliers what is expected of them in the next 5-10 years, where they need to improve themselves. So we gave them the indication that we are setting a target, we need you on board, otherwise we can't get forward. So that is the first thing we did with engagement and collaboration, because we believe the foundation should be strong so that we can actually deliver these results. And also, you also know this famous saying that if you wanted to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So this is also our approach. Despite it is very, very cumbersome to engage everybody in the company and outside the company, but that is what required when you have tremendous challenges in front of you. And not only that, you need to have a matching structure within the company. For example, in our company, we have set a governance where our CEO is the sponsor of this target, and he is responsible for implementing this target. But there are dedicated cross-functional steering committee, which is fast-tracking the decisions and also getting the buy-in from different functions. And we also have a dedicated project manager who facilitates the target and the roadmap for the group level and also each facility level. And also, if a climate change target is just set aside from your business strategy, then it is not going to be implemented. So what we did was we have created a business strategy with targets, and one of the targets is the climate change target. So it's part of the business strategy. It is not outside the business strategy. So that is also something part of the governance, and also incentives, reporting, and all those things have been done. So for now, I just wanted to give you some more examples and move on to the next because of the time. We have been procuring green electricity in some facilities. We are transforming one site in China from coal to natural gas completely, which reduces 50% of its whole site's emissions, which is also a huge thing, and which includes 2 sites include $200 million investment. So we are not talking about pennies here. It's really, really huge investment for our size of the company as well. And we are doing all those things with R&D, procurement, operations. All functions have been involved, whatever contribution they need to bring onto the table. So you might ask, what does this all mean for me as a procurer of Lenzing fibers or a brand or a retailer, how is it going to help me as such? So you might ask that question. So we are offering certain solutions, some examples here. Before I go, why you might think like that? So if you look at a brand's typical brand's scope 1 and 2, 3 emissions, scope 3 is more than 90% contributions. That means all the purchased goods and services like a finished fabric or a finished garment or anything, if you're a part of the value chain, not the brand and retailer, everything is coming from your upstream value chain. If you look at that upstream value chain, the raw material providers like us are contributing or maybe that phase is contributing to 25% of your final emissions. If you are selling a garment, an equipment, whatever it is. So we as a company asked ourselves, how can we help these customers to reduce their emissions substantially? So we would like to take you through some examples how our company and how our fibers can help you. One thing is here, you can see this is a viscose fiber with a brand name called Ecovero. If you compare the generic viscose average from the industry, you have, if you buy our Lenzing Ecovero fiber, it will have more than 50% reduction of your CO2 emissions. And these are actually coming out of Sustainable Apparel Coalition's Higgs Index, where it has been verified, the whole methodology, the calculations, and everything has been verified and has been approved by the independent verifiers there. So you can see that it has gone through certain vetting process. So there is a lot of credibility and transparency in those. So this is one solution about if you use viscose fibers, we will help you reduce more than 50% of your CO2 emissions compared to average. Similarly, if you wanted to make some garments are using our modal fiber, and we have an offering called modal color or modal eco color fiber, which has already, it's a dope dyed fiber. So the fiber has already incorporated the pigment. So you can have different shades that you want or colors you want. And if you compare a fabric made of modal color, our fiber, with a generic modal fabric made by conventional dyeing. So you need to go through these 5-6 steps of putting the color, washing, and all those. You can see how much huge change. Not only this is coming from the fabric dyeing, but also how the fiber has been made. So together, this is a reduction of more than 70-80% at the garment level is possible by using modal color fabrics in your portfolio. This is also coming out of the SAC comparisons. You can also rely on. And other most important product that we have delivered. We thought about, we are providing a low CO2 footprint. Is it enough? Or can we do even further? So with that intention, we have come up with a product called True Carbon Zero. This is a Tencel branded fibers. And the three-pronged approach we have taken here is reduce the emissions that you can do with the current technology and market barriers right now. Whatever is possible, do it. And there are scope 3 emissions coming from your suppliers. Engage your suppliers to provide you low carbon CO2 footprint materials. So we are also working with our suppliers, the huge, the big suppliers that are contributing to our footprint. And there are remaining emissions that you cannot actually avoid or reduce anymore. There you can actually buy certified emission reductions through afforestation projects done by third party, independently verified. So all those things are also being considered. So we have the third pronged approach called offsets. So when you have all these things, what happens? You wanted to know, right? So if you see an average, the market average lyocell fiber has around 7 kilograms of CO2 per kg of fiber. By showing that I showed the roadmap that we have been implementing in the company for a lot of decades. So the clean energy mix, we use more than 50% renewable energy in our company, and we have state-of-the-art facilities within the lyocell and other processes. And we are also working with our pulp and chemical suppliers. All of that have reduced our emissions by to around 2.3 kg. That means around 60% reduction or something like that, 60-70%. But this is the footprint you will get when you buy our fiber, right? And we thought, how can we actually give you a chance to communicate a carbon neutral fiber to your customers or consumers, so that you can also drive this big change in the society and also create more demand for these kind of products and innovations. By supporting us, you are also supporting our roadmap and transformation process. So we bought certified emission reductions by third parties that are well known and scientifically proven, that there are afforestation, reforestation, but also there are other projects like making people use less fossil fuels for cooking in developing countries, or avoiding deforestation, those kind of things. So with that, you can get a certified, carbon neutral certified fiber, which you can communicate on your product. So yeah, we have transparency and marketing and all those related to these products. Please contact our colleagues if you wanted to work on these, but we would like to hear from you whatever questions you have. So here I would like to thank you and open up for any questions you have. Thank you very much. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you well. So far, there are no questions coming up. So if there are any attendee questions coming up later, you can contact the Lenzing and Telcel team in our digital fair platform. And yeah, I think for now, we are good. And we thank you very much for this webinar. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, maybe I was thinking if, since we have 3 more minutes for my slot, right? So I would like to hear what are the challenges the participants facing when they are actually working on climate strategy or wanted to launch products with that. So I just wanted to ask an open question if they have anything that they want to share as well, just an opportunity to learn from them. So please feel free to chat. I mean, I don't know whether they can open up their mics and talk, or they have to only send a message.
If anybody wants to raise their hand, we can also put them in here. They can ask the question live. And if not, they can ask you, also contact you through our platform later on during this entire week, request meeting with you and your team. So
yeah, sounds very good. Then I will give 1 more minute, because just to respect people and give time to them, and then maybe I will drop off at 12:30, and as you said, they can contact us.
So I just saw there is a question coming up. There's a question: what have been the biggest challenges along the way with suppliers? What have been your biggest challenges along the way?
Yeah, so the thing is that many suppliers do not have even their CO2 footprint ready when we talk to them. So this is a long process. So we have started talking to our suppliers, big suppliers that we have been having. And we have informed them that we are working on climate change target and we need their support. So those strategic suppliers have started developing their CO2 footprint and giving, but it is only a fraction of suppliers. But the remaining fraction, we do not have any information from them, how much CO2 is coming from their raw materials that we are buying. So there is a long way to go here, but the important thing is engagement. I think we have a few years time plan of how we actually engage our suppliers through EcoVadis, through our own regular touch points and meetings and expectations we are communicating, but also giving them an opportunities to collaborate on our new products. For example, Carbon Zero, there is an opportunity for a supplier to reduce their emissions of raw material. so that it go into our carbon zero fiber. So we are talking about all these kind of different engagements, whether it's awareness, whether it's actually collaboration, whether it's actually part of our procurement contracts, like part of the contract, like CO2 footprint would be part of the contract also in some cases. So we are talking about all these things to address the challenge of engaging our suppliers. Yeah, I hope this has helped you understand that.
Thank you so much. I think that's it for now.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions coming in. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.